So we're doing this. Okay, so this is, I don't know whether you guys read all this stuff.
Yeah.
Victoria read it. Did you read it, Andel?
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay.
I was working a lot of this week. So
Okay, well, it's incredibly, complicated. I mean, once you get into these political machinations, it's like, oh my God. And people killing people left and right. It's just like nuts. So that's where we were supposed to be. So what we're going to do is this is chapter 2 begins David's death. So, and Solomon's ascension and all the complications that come with that. So does somebody want to read First Kings?
Oh,
Yeah. Oh, go,
Go
Victoria.
ahead. Oh, go ahead.
When David's time to die drew near, he charged his son Solomon, saying, I am about to go the way of all the earth. Be strong, be courageous, and keep the charge of the Lord your God, walking in his ways and keeping his statutes, his commandments, his ordinances, and his testimonies, as it is written in the law of Moses, so that you may prosper in all that you do and wherever you turn. Then the Lord will establish his word that he spoke concerning me. If your heirs take heed to their way, to walk before me in faithfulness with all their heart and with all their soul, there shall not fail you a successor on the throne of Israel.
Oh. Okay, so now you can see this is very upright and, good advice and all that kind of stuff. The law of Moses, of course, is the Torah here. And this, with all your heart, where is it? With all your heart and with all your soul. Where is that?
Last line. Next to last line.
Okay. It another person translates with your whole heart and your whole being, or with their whole heart and their whole being. In other words, the whole idea of soul here is we have this idea of bodies and souls, and it's not really that. I mean, it's your body is part of your soul, if you want to put it that way. It's not just they're two separate things that are joined and it's not Legos here. So that's one thing to keep about it. But what do you think of this charge that Solomon gives David? I'm sorry, that David gives Solomon.
Be strong, be courageous.
Yeah.
Well, it's fairly basic. He's essentially reasserting the covenant, reminding him of the covenant.
Yeah, it is. Okay. Now, did somebody want to read Deuteronomy 30 down here?
I can do that. See, I have set before you today life and prosperity, death and adversity. If you obey the commandments of the Lord your God that I am commanding you today, by loving the Lord your God, walking in his ways and observing his commandments, decrees, and ordinances, then you shall live and become numerous, and the Lord your God will bless you in the land you are entering to possess.
Any similarity here, folks?
Yeah.
So you can see that this charge that David gives Solomon almost comes straight out of that Deuteronomy ethos. Be good and things will be good, but but notice it's by loving the Lord your God. okay, that and walking in God's ways and observing God's commandments, that which is almost, walking in, it's almost the same up here. And so, but that's the theme of Deuteronomy. So what happens when that isn't done? Okay. And that's the essential part. So then we get to the next part of the charge. Yeah. Does somebody want to read that?
All right, I will. Moreover, you know also what Joab, son of
Zeruiah
did to me, how he dealt with the two commanders of the armies of Israel, Abner, son of Ner, and Amasa, son of Jether, whom he murdered, retaliating in time of peace for blood that had been shed in war, and putting innocent blood on the belt around my waist and on the sandals on my feet. Act, therefore, or is that just 6 act?
No, that's act, therefore.
Okay. Act, therefore, according to your wisdom, but do not let his gray head go down to Sheol in peace.
Yeah. Okay. So, all this happens in 2 Samuel. And so we'll go over that. But the reason why I have Absalom here hanging from the tree by his hair is because unbeknownst to David, it was Joab who did the first strike on Absalom, and basically he takes 3 sticks and just stabs Absalom, and then they cut him down and the rest of the soldiers go after him. But apparently David didn't know that Joab instigated that. And so Absalom was the guy who was his oldest son. He decides he's going to take over the kingdom. And so he gets an army together and goes after it. And during one of the battles, he gets stuck in this terebinth tree, and with his lovely hair, and ends up getting killed. So Abner and Amasa, okay, and you can see they were both commanders of armies in Israel, and we'll get to what happens. So, and Joab's a nasty piece of work, let me tell you. So, this is from 2 Samuel. When Abner returned to Hebron, Joab took him aside in the gateway to speak with him privately, and there he stabbed him in the stomach, so he died on account of the blood of Asahel, Joab's brother. So what happened was Asahel was in battle, and Abner killed him. Because, Abner was head of Saul's army. And at one point, Abner decides, Saul accuses him of sleeping with one of his concubines, and Abner says, "That's it, I've had it." He hadn't done it, but and so he decides to parley with David, and this upsets Joab, and not only because it would be a rival to Joab, but also because Abner was the one who killed his brother in battle. So he pulled this isn't a terribly accurate picture, but he pulls Abner aside, and he stabs him to death. So he does 2 things. He avenges his brother, and he kills Abner. He eliminates a rival for being commander of David's army. Joab is nothing but practical in a deadly sort of way. So that's the first one.
One way to deal with your problems.
Yeah. Well, Abner tends to do this. Now you have to remember, Joab tends to do this. Now you have to remember that Joab was complicit in the whole Uriah Bathsheba thing. And David knew of Joab's tendencies, shall we call it. And so, and both these incidents happened before David settles in Jerusalem. So it's Joab who sends Uriah to the front lines to be killed. Okay. And Uriah is not even an Israelite. I mean, I can't remember where he's from, but. So in 2 Samuel, Amasa is a head of the Israelites, I think, or another army. And when they came to a large stone in Gibeon, Amasa comes to meet him. And Joab is now wearing a soldier's garment. So, and over it was a belt with a sword in its sheath fastened at his waist. And so as he falls forward, the sword falls out. And Joab says to Amasa, "Is it well with you, my brother?" And he takes his beard with his right hand to kiss him. And when the sword falls out, he takes the sword with his left hand and he strikes him in the belly so that his entrails pour out on the ground and he died. He did not strike a second blow. So Joab's using his left hand, which is not the usual sword hand. And a strike in the belly also echoes how Abner died. And again, Joab eliminates a rival because actually it was David who sends out Amasa as head of the army, not Joab. So there is some tension between Joab and David. So he eliminates him. Like I said, he's a piece of work. So you notice all of this is striking in the abdomen and all that. So it's pretty nasty stuff. Yeah, where are we? We're here. So let's go here. So I'm going to read this, and someone else can read 2 Samuel. Mm-hmm. So David tells Solomon, "Deal loyally, however, with the sons of Barzillai, the Gileadite, and let them be among those who eat at your table. For with such loyalty they met me when I fled from your brother Absalom." Okay, so somebody want to read the 2 Samuel thing?
You take those hard names, Victoria.
I'll do it. Now Barzillai the Gileadite had come down from Rogelim. He went on with the king to the Jordan to escort him over the Jordan. Barzillai was a very aged man, 80 years old. He had provided the king with food while he stayed at Mahanaim, for he was a very wealthy man. The king answered, "Shimham, your son, shall go over with me, and I will do for him whatever seems good to you, and all that you desire of me I will do for you." Then all the people crossed over the Jordan, and the king crossed over. The king kissed Barzillai and blessed him, and he returned to his own home.
Now, what's in 3 dots is that David wants Barzillai to go with him. But Barzillai says, "Look, I'm old, okay? And I can't go with you. I'm going to stay here because I want to die and be buried next to my mom and dad and, all that." So David says, "Yeah, good." So Chimham is apparently his son. And his son goes with David as he after Absalom does his thing, tries to take over. David leaves the city, leaves Jerusalem, and goes over the Jordan for safety, along with his courtiers and people. And people go with him, and he he goes there for safety while the armies, clash behind him. Hello, Kath.
Hello. I had
There she
oh,
is.
I couldn't log on. My password wouldn't take, blah, 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 blah.
I know, I had the same problem.
You did? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, so you missed all the death and destruction.
Oh,
Yeah.
damn.
See, you missed the stabbing
Stab-
here and the stabbing here.
Stabbings.
Oh,
And
Lots of
stab-
stabbings. So we've had two vengeance things, deal with these two guys who've left blood on my like if we go back here, he says, and putting innocent blood around my waist and on the sandals of my feet. In other words, Joab, supposedly acting on David's orders, killed these two people, especially Abner. David was really upset about Abner. And so Solomon has to kind of take care of this in order that this blood, innocent blood, does not stay on David. So, and then we have this guy. This is deal loyally with the sons of Barzillai, the Gileadite, because he helped him out. He fed people. He he gave him his son to go with him and stuff like that. So that was all good. Now, so does somebody want to read 1 Kings 2 here?
I will. There is also with you Shimei, son of Gera, a Benjaminite from Baal-Urim, who cursed me with a terrible curse on the day when I went to Mahanaim.
Yeah.
But when he came down to meet me at the Jordan, I swore to him by the Lord, I will not put you to death with the sword. Therefore, do not hold him guiltless. For you are a wise man. You will know what you ought to do to him, and you must bring his gray head down with blood to Sheol.
Okay. So this is what Shimei did, okay, as David was going away from Jerusalem. So when King David came to Bahurim, a man of the family of the house of Saul came out, whose name was Shimei, son of Gera, and he came out cursing. He threw stones at David and all the servants of King David, and all the people and on all the people and warriors on his right and on his left. And Shimei shouted while he cursed, "Out, out, murderer, scoundrel! The Lord has avenged on all of you, the blood of the house of Saul, in whose place you have reigned. And the Lord has given the kingdom into the hand of your son Absalom. See, disaster has overtaken you, for you are a man of blood." He curses David all the way as David goes down to cross the Jordan. And David says, no, people want to kill him right there. And David says, no, he's doing what the Lord wants him to do. And because David at this point is really depressed because Absalom is one of his favorite sons, and he can't believe this kid is doing what he's doing, and he feels like he's been betrayed, and he's not in the best frame of mind. So when Shimei starts yelling and cursing at him, he kind of accepts it, saying, "This is the Lord cursing and yelling at me," and says, "Don't hurt him." So on the way back, after Absalom's armies are defeated and David's on his way back, Shimei comes down to him and says, "Look, I'm sorry." And so David promises not to kill him. Okay. And that's why why it says, I swore to him by the Lord that I would not put you to death with the sword. Okay. So, so he basically says, this is a problem. And I want you in your wisdom to take care of it. Okay. So we're down to here. Okay, does somebody want to? So that's the end of the charge. Okay, notice that it's like almost like two different things. You got on one hand, you have this very nice, keep the ways of the Lord and all this, be nice and all that kind of stuff. And then we get to the good part, or the gritty part, where make sure this guy dies, make sure that guy dies, and make sure this guy dies. Okay, I mean, revenge incorporated here. Okay, so so it's like there's two different things going on here. One, the idea that a king is supposed to follow the Lord and supposed to keep God's commandments, and that way, people will, and an heir will always be on the throne. And on the other hand, there's the practical machinations of keeping your head on when you're king. And that's the tension here in the, at least in the first part of Kings, because the first part of Kings until David dies is basically a continuation of David's story in the books of Samuel. And it's a coherent story for the most part. There are kind of things in there that don't quite fit, but it's a coherent story about David and how he gets to the throne and all the machinations and battles and relationships and what. And so when David dies, the tenor of the book of Kings changes somewhat. Now we've seen where the Deuteronomy stuff comes in, and the Deuteronomy stuff will get stronger as we go in. So somebody want to read this?
I will.
Okay.
Then David slept with his ancestors and was buried in the city of David. The time that David reigned over Israel was 40 years. He reigned 7 years in Hebron and 33 years in Jerusalem. So Solomon sat on the throne of his father David, and his kingdom was firmly established.
Okay, so this is a picture of modern Jerusalem, and way up here is what do we call that? The Temple Mount. Okay, and down here is the actual city of David. You can see it's not terribly big. I mean, we're talking a few thousand people here. We're not talking about anything, huge. The palace, you can barely read this. The palace is up here at the top of the hill, and outside the city over here is where the tent of meeting is, where what do you call it? Where they keep the ark and all that kind of stuff.
Oh.
Okay, and then down here, it says quite specifically that he's buried in the city of David. So cats. So they, like I said, cats. We have cats today. So the tomb is down here. The probable tomb, the possible tomb, is down here, but it's within the city, which is really odd because. According to Jewish law, you're not supposed to bury people inside the city. So, because, of course, they're unclean and all that kind of stuff. But if you want to see a picture, let me do one more thing here. You see this wall here?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that wall is this wall right here.
Oh.
cool.
Okay, so the tombs are actually cut into the ground. Now, this is a possible tomb. They can't, because the tombs have been, of course, raided forever. And it's also apparently part of a quarry too. So all evidence has just been like, scoured away. And so the guy who first found this thought this might be David's tomb, but other folks have said, and because it wasn't a normal kind of tomb from that period, they have, it's like today, our burial practices shift, and from the way, the designs and the types of headstones and all that kind of stuff changes over time. And from that, you can tell when the tomb was built. And during David's time, they put shelves in the tomb for the bodies, and none of these tombs have shelves in them. But they think, maybe he's a king, there's something separate. And there are tombs from that period that, royal tombs from that period that don't have shelves and all that kind of stuff. But they can actually really, I remember helping one of my sons with a project where we went to the cemetery in Framingham, one of the old ones that go back to the Revolutionary War times. And we looked at the designs, willow trees, skulls, winged skulls, things like that, and at the dates for each type of motif. And they actually changed, between, 1750 and 1800, they did this. And from, 1790 to this, they did that. And so it is a valid way to do it. So anyway, so there they are. So,
Can I just ask a quick question, please?
Yeah.
Is the ark that you're referring to, is that the Torah?
No, the ark is a actual box. Let me see.
Like Raiders of the Lost Ark?
Yeah, it's the same kind of
okay.
thing.
Okay.
Let me see.
So
if I
there's
can-
like a chalice or something like that in there?
No, it's supposed to have.
Well, what's in the ark?
Let me. Come on. Oh, we're at the bottom here. I know there's a picture of one of these things here. There's a picture of it. See that? Oops. Oh, come on. Okay, so you see this? Oops. No, this is not working out. We want to take this and move it over. Okay, so this is a replica of the ark, and it's not a very good one because these are not cherubim. Sorry. They're just, angels. But the ark is actually a box.
Okay, it's not
And-
coming up on my screen. Is
Oh, it's
everybody
not?
seeing it?
Oh,
No.
I know why. Okay, wait a minute. I know why. We're going to share a
Sorry.
different screen. Do-do-do-do-do-do. That, okay, what's going on? Yeah, that should be it. Of course it's not. Of course it's not.
Sorry.
No, you were right. Somebody should have said something. No.
Well, maybe everybody else knew.
No.
Maybe I was the only confused one.
No, there we are. Okay, now you
Okay.
can see it. Okay, so it's basically a gold box. Notice the poles on each side were for carrying it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And these on top are supposed to be cherubim. These are not cherubim. We'll go into cherubim when we build.
Cherubim and seraphim.
Yeah, and all that. Yeah, these are our visions of cherubim, not their visions of cherubim.
Oh, okay.
Notion of cherubim has changed greatly over the millennia. So, but anyway, inside the box are supposed to be the tablets of the law, some manna, and I think Moses' staff. Okay. So that's what's in the box.
And okay, is there only one ark?
Yes, there's only
Okay.
one ark. Only one. Okay. And there is a reason why they went to Egypt to dig it up in Indiana Jones. because they think maybe it did end up in Egypt, but whatever.
Okay.
So this is what the ark looks like. Okay. Now, how did we get on that? I don't
Because you
remember.
said something about about the ark,
Oh, right. Okay. So
the
yeah,
temple where the ark is,
right.
and I was trying to figure out, okay, temple.
Yeah,
ark, it's
so
the ark
that's
of the Torah. Okay.
right. So that's way up on this hill here. Okay. David buys somebody's threshing floor and puts the ark up there. So there's a tent and there's an altar and you know, the tent has the ark inside it. And David wanted to build a temple, but God said, no, your hands are just full of blood because, you know, you've been building this kingdom up for me and all that. Your son will build it for me. So that's one of the things that Solomon goes about doing, is building a temple with his buddy from Phoenicia. So, so anyway, so this is David's tomb here. Okay. And I just thought you'd like to see. And Solomon sat on the throne of his father David. So this is a Canaanite ruler on his throne from about 13th century. So that's 1200s, about 200 years before Solomon. Okay, but you notice that, you notice the Egyptian motifs in here, which you
Yeah.
don't think of in Canaan. And Canaan, of course, is the land the Israelites take over, but Egypt had control of Canaan for hundreds of years. And so that's why all the Egyptian motifs are in here, because the Canaanites are copying the Egyptians. So, but, oh, and these characters right here with the wings and the, you know, those are cherubim. You know, they have
The
bodies of,
seraphim's the one with the 6 wings?
yes. But these are what cherubim look like in David's time. They're not angels, they're creatures. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so I just thought you'd like to see that. So, okay, so going on here, is somebody,
I'll read it.
okay,
That Adonijah, son of Haggith, came to Bathsheba, Solomon's mother. He asked, "Do you
Yeah.
come peaceably?" He said, "Peaceably." Then he said, "May I have a word with you?" He said, "Go on." He said, "You know that the kingdom was mine and that all Israel expected me to reign. However, the kingdom has turned about and become my brother's, for it was his from the Lord. And now I have one request to make of you. Do not refuse me." He said to him, "Go on." He said, "Please ask King Solomon, he will not refuse you, to give me Abishag the Shunammite as my wife." Bathsheba said, "Very well, I will speak to the king on your behalf."
okay, folks, what do you think's going on here?
A little political maneuvering.
On whose part?
Solomon.
Well, no, he's not in on this yet.
No,
The son.
Yeah,
Okay, remember, Adonijah is the one who declares himself king.
Right. He's
Right.
the troublemaker.
Yeah, he's the one who declares himself king at the beginning of Kings. Okay.
Right.
that's right. And he hasn't given up yet.
Now, what do you think? Why do you think he's asking for Abishag, the beautiful Shunammite?
Was she someone associated with Solomon originally?
No,
And
she's
David's
she's
helper.
she's King David's helper. Remember, they go
It
out and
might
get him.
be as-
Oh,
intended.
right.
Right. She was a lot younger than David.
Yes.
Maybe he thinks that by taking her, he'll diminish David's ability to rule.
No, Solomon's ability to rule.
Solomon.
Pretty close there, Kath.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Exactly. Now, Bathsheba says, very well, I will speak to the king. What do you think she's doing?
Trying to keep peace in the family.
Yeah, she could be. But remember, it's her son and she wants to
Right.
keep him on the throne. And she actually is the first to, there's actually a very powerful position called Queen Mother. And as you'll see in the next slide, and this continues on. One of the weird things about kings is that for every king, we know who the mother was.
Mm.
And so it was a powerful political position.
Is
And
the Queen Mother the wife?
no, Queen Mother is the mother of the king.
Mm.
Okay. Okay.
So Bathsheba it would be the Queen Mother. Okay, so why do you think she agrees to this? We shall find out. Okay, somebody want to read the first paragraph here?
Okay, I will. So Bathsheba went to King Solomon to speak to him on behalf of
Adonijah.
Adonijah. King rose to meet her and bowed down to her. Then he sat on his throne and had a throne brought for the king's mother, and she sat on his right. Then she said, I have one small request to make of you. Do not refuse me. And the king said to her, make your request, my mother, for I will not refuse you. She said, let Abishag, the Shumanite, be given to your brother Adonijah as his wife.
Okay, now you can see that not only does she have a throne, but it's at his right hand. Remember, the right hand side of somebody's important is like the second most important. Okay, so she sits on a throne next to his. Okay,
Just as Jesus sits on a throne to the right hand of Jesus, of God.
Very good, very good. Right hand of God. That's good, Kath. You're getting this connection thing. Okay, and notice that
keep it, so that's like real, not like woo-woo. I usually can ride along.
Yes. Okay. So you notice that Adonijah, I have one small request to make of you. And so Bathsheba comes to Solomon and says, I have one small request to make of you. Okay. And notice that when she makes her request, she doesn't say, I can't refuse you. She just says, go on, speak. Okay. But in this case, Solomon says, I will not refuse you.
Mm.
And she makes her request. Okay. And now, the thing you have to think about here is she doing this out of naivete, or is she doing this out of cleverness?
I don't think Bathsheba does anything out of naivete. I don't think.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so somebody want to read the second paragraph?
I'll take it.
Okay.
King Solomon answered his mother, and why do you ask Abishag the Shunammite for Adonijah? Ask for him the kingdom as well, for he is my elder brother, and the priest Abiathar and Joab, son of Zeruiah, are on his side. Then King Solomon swore by the Lord, so may God do to me and more also, for Adonijah has devised this scheme at the risk of his life. Now, therefore, as the Lord lives, who has established me and placed me on the throne of my father David, and who has made me a house as he promised, today Adonijah shall be put to death. So King Solomon sent Benaniah, son of Jehoiada, and struck him down, and he died.
rival eliminated. But notice, so may God do to me and more. And notice also said, look, the Lord gave me this throne and he's not going to take it. Okay. So this whole idea that, it's women actually play this really odd, important role. And that it's reiterated in parts of Samuel, is that to have sex with the king's wives or even their concubines is to somehow aspire to be king. In fact, there's one case where these concubines are left in Jerusalem to take care of the palace. And even though Absalom never sleeps with any of them, they're still put away into their own compound in what the Bible calls living widowhood, because there was a possibility of it. So it's somehow you share with the wives and the concubines, you share in the kingship. So something interesting. So that could also be playing out with this queen mother thing, is that, she birthed a king, so she's important because of that. She's kind of shares his body in some senses. So, but notice who this guy, Benaniah, will pop up again and again. Okay. And he does Solomon's dirty work for him.
So did she go and ask Solomon for this favor, knowing what the outcome will be?
Yeah. And thereby giving Solomon an excuse to kill him.
Okay. And is that what's going on outside this illustration you put up here?
Yeah, here you have Solomon and his mother, and then here's Benaniah killing Adonijah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's why I picked this illustration. It's from a 16th century Bible. Oh, well, we left out a piece here, I think. No, we didn't. Okay. Okay, so does anybody have any more questions about that? Oh, it's 9:30, folks. There's something missing here. Oh, there it is. Okay. It's 9:30. How many more do we have here? Do you want to keep to the end of the chapter?
Sure.
More blood and guts? We have a little bit more to go. It shouldn't be too long. So then the king said to the priest Abiathar, "Go to Anathoth to your estate, for you deserve death, but I will not at this time put you to death, because you carried the ark of the Lord God before my father David, and because you shared all the hardships of my father endured." So Solomon banished Abiathar from being priest to the Lord, thus fulfilling the word of the Lord that he had spoken concerning the house of Eli and Shiloh. Now, I didn't put that story in because it goes over long chapters, but Eli was in charge of the high place in Shiloh, which is you'll see another important cultic place. And what happened was his sons were being really awful. And God spoke to Eli and said, "Because you haven't reined in your sons, your house shall not be priests to God." So Abiathar is the last in the line. He's a grandson or a great grandson. And so when Solomon banishes him, here's Jerusalem here. This is the this is David's city down here. So he's banished out to this little village way out here, and banned from being a priest. So that ends the line of priesthood for Eli. Okay. Just to give you an idea of what this village was like, this is Anathoth in the time of the early part of the last century. Not a cosmopolitan place.
No.
And the other reason why Anathoth is famous is because Jeremiah was born there.
Mm.
Okay, so after all these blood and guts, I found this. I thought this was like, oh my God, we needed something light. So somebody want to read this?
I will. When the news came to Joab, for Joab had supported Adoniah, though he had not supported Absalom, Joab fled to the tent of the Lord and grasped the horns of the altar. When it was told King Solomon, Joab has fled to the tent of the Lord and now is beside the altar, Solomon sent Benaiah, son of Joiada,
Yeah.
saying, go strike him down. So Benaiah came to the tent of the Lord and said to him, the king commands, come out. But he said, no, I will die here.
So Benaiah doesn't want to go into the tent, into the sacred area to kill Joab, because that would be a no-no, because whoever grabs the horns of the altar is considered, he's entered into sanctuary. So, by the way, there's a whole Bible of this stuff. It's called the Brick Testament. Okay. So then Benaiah brought the king word again, saying, thus said Joab, and thus he answered me. And the king replied to him, do as he said, strike him down and bury him, and thus take away from me and from my father's house the guilt for the blood that Joab shed without cause. The Lord will bring back his bloody deeds on his own head, because without knowledge of my father David, he attacked and killed with the sword 2 men more righteous and better than he, Abner, son of Ner, commander of the army of Israel, and Amasa, son of Jether, commander of the army of Judah. And so shall their blood come back on the head of Joab and on the head of his descendants forever. But to David and to his descendants and to his house and to his throne there shall be peace from the Lord forevermore. Then Benaiah, son of Jehoiada, went up and struck him down and killed him, and he was buried at his own house near the wilderness. The king put Benaiah, son of Jehoiada, over the army in his place, and the king put the priest Zadok in the place of Abiathar. So, I like King Solomon here. So, all this has to do with, innocence and blood and all this kind of stuff. And, Solomon's basically saying, look, Benaiah killed innocent people. So if you're killing him at the altar or in the temple or in the tent of meeting, it's okay, because this man killed innocent people, or killed more righteous than he. And so his blood needs to come back on him and not on the house of David, because David didn't know anything about this. These 2 murders. In fact, David gets very, very upset with Joab when he murders Abner. So that's the end of the chapter. Enough blood and guts for you folks?
Yeah, that's a lot for a Sunday morning.
It certainly is. But notice that the machinations that go on here have to do with, revenge and you're welcome. That was, I don't know whether is she still here? No, I guess not.
Who?
It's securing the succession too, isn't it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, things back then are not, violence is kind of a part of life, and things are much more, I don't know, tense, I guess. And the idea of settling these things amicably or in court doesn't exist.
Mm.
So the only option you've got is to kill people, whether outright or behind the scenes. So that's what's going on here. Killing people.
Instant judgment.
What?
Instant judgment.
Well, at this point, Solomon has had a charge from his father,
Mm.
and he not only wants to fulfill it, but he also wants to protect his throne, because you remember that Joab went over with Adonijah, and so when Joab finds out that Adonijah's been killed, he knows he's next because he supported Adonijah. So killing Adonijah allows Solomon to go after his supporters. So that's why he banishes Zadok, and he knows that Joab goes to the altar because he knows that Solomon will just strike him down, and it's his last chance to stay alive. And so when he says, well, I shall die here, Solomon basically says, okay, yep, strike him down.
Choose your spot.
Yep, here's the spot. So, and that he's buried in his own house near the wilderness, nobody knows what's behind that. But they think perhaps it's somewhere out near Bethlehem, because even though Bethlehem's only a few miles south of Jerusalem, it's wilderness as far as these folks are concerned. Now, what all this has to do with God, I don't know. But this is kind of the end of the story of David, because now we've eliminated all of Solomon's rivals, and we've done what David asked him to do. And so now we can go on with the next part of Kings, which is all about when kings do good things happen. When kings do bad things happen, mostly to them. So, but sometimes it gets really bad and the country gets sacked. So,
okay.
So, and we will now be entering the time when, so like when Shishak comes up from Egypt, we can actually say, oh, yes, we know this because such and such memorial talks about Shishak going into Egypt or going into Canaan, the Levant, and attacking. So we'll be getting more and more into that kind of thing.
Sure. Because Monica made coffee hour, but doesn't know how to make coffee.
Sure.
Really?
Absolutely.
You're amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. I loved your sermon, Brian. Thank you so much for that.
Hey, Becky.
Oh, you guys can hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, I thought you were muted. Hi.
No, she's not muted.
How many of
'cause
you
I
are
have-
in there?
Just 3 of us.
There's just the 4 of us, 5 of us chickens,
I
4 of us
see.
chickens.
Sorry to come in here and like mess with you.
No, that's okay. We were just done.
Okay, good.
We just killed off, how many people we killed off in this chapter? 3?
At least.
I ran
At
out of
least
Three
fingers.
kings.
Oh, Kings
That's
is
good.
brutal.
Yes.
It's good.
Yeah.
A lot of smiting.
Eli was just looking for the Legos to make loaves and fish yesterday. If
Oh.
he finds them, I'll send them your way.
Tell him there's this place, it's called the Brick Testament. And it's the
Mhm.
illustrations of all, it's the illustrations from the Bible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, we know. Yeah, it's a great. There's a lot of Sunday school curriculum around it. It's awesome.
Yeah,
So,
so
all right, I'm
anyway,
gonna
okay,
let you do your thing. See ya.
bye. So folks, next week we get into,
Kathy, mute yourself.
Yeah, I'm mute.
okay, so next week we'll get into Kings itself, where we've now dropped the David story, and you'll see it takes on a different tone. This has been kind of, you can see it's one of those stories where you have to go back and figure out what, this is where all the denouement of the novel, okay? The novel of David, and this is where it ends. And this is what happens to all the major characters. And now we can start the succession, David's progeny, and what happens with them. Okay,
Yes.
so that's it for today, folks.
Thank you, Chris.
Very
Oh,
good.
you're welcome. And we'll see you.
Fun today.
Yeah.
You did
Oh, yeah.
well, Gloria.
Thank you.
So I will see you folks next week. Okay.
Not Friday?
Oh, Friday. I don't know. Maybe.
Okay.
I
All right.
usually have
I'm-
family Zoom. So
We'll come here anyhow. You can
yes.
Zoom
okay.
here. Zoom with him here. For a
I'm
bit.
9 miles away.
Then have a party. You still
Okay.
feeling well, Victoria?
Actually, it slammed me on Friday and I'm really tired, but I'm okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
So-
she's still good.
Yeah.
You're still good.
Yep.
I'm sorry, I missed, what are we reading next week? next
Do
week.
chapter 3 and 4.
Got it.
Just
Thank you.
keep reading on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okie dokie, folks. See
Take
ya.
care.
Okay.
Listen to Brian's sermon, it's amazing.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, it really is.
Okay. I will.
Okay,
Bye,
Bye,
guys.
guys.
Go Pats.
Go Pats, yeah. Yeah. No, listen to Brian, if you can do, if it's as good as at 10 as it was at 8, I was left in tears. It was great.
Okay, thank you.
Herb, right? Mwah, mwah.
Mwah, mwah.
See ya.